Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So today we're gonna do a kind of a boring review, a little bit more of a boring review. But we're gonna talk about flash hiders today. And most of the time, they don't really do much other than add to the looks of the model here. But I have noticed a couple of them. They do kind of make different. They don't. They kind of change the sound of not reduce it, but they make it sound differently. And I mainly noticed this, if you remember, with the GHK SIG. Let me pull it up real quick. So if you remember in the SIG review video we made, at first we had that A2 flash hider because that's what it came with, and it wasn't until like about a week or two later that they sent us the replacement part for it. Which was the original three-prong flash hider here. And obviously this doesn't change the sound or anything like that, but it does. I've noticed after I've installed this, every time when you fire it, if you listen carefully, it kind of makes this like distinctive like pinging noise. And that's due to the vibration, I think, when it hits like or the sound or the pressure, I don't know, the gas, whatever, when it hits the prong, it makes that pinging noise. So there's definitely an interesting take to it. I'm not sure if the real SIG does that based on this design model, but that's kind of an interesting thing to know. So it actually kind of makes this thing a little bit more distinct in terms of how it sounds, and I'll show you a quick video of how it sounds. Now, for the most part, today I want to focus though on is this. This was wasn't included. This is actually a blast deflector, and it's important that we recognize this because I didn't know what this was called. I thought it was just like a muzzle flat or a flash hider, and I've always thought that was confusing. So why in the world would you make it like a hollow tube or a hollow insides like that, so that it would seem to me like it was like a loudener. It made it even louder, so it looked like a cone shape, right? But what actually happens is that apparently the model, and again, those of you who are more of experts in this, fill me in on the history. But from my understanding is that when they try to make this more of a combined, like carbine version, this barrel length was like only about 10 inches. And so it was too loud. The muzzle flash the muzzle flash was blinding. That's a different story. But one of the other things that this was supposed to help attenuate was it's supposed to help, not attenuate, but it's supposed to redirect that loudness somewhere else. It doesn't change the overall volume of it, but just it will redirect the blast to a different direction, mainly in front of you. And so as the shooter, you don't hear that sound, but the person in front of you will. So it's not really a suppressor in that sense. It's more of a what they call a deflector. And so that finally made sense to me. I was like, well, why in the world would anyone want this? And so that's the purpose of this. The original one came with this this isn't really even a duck bill, because the duck bill one should have been kind of slanted, but it is still nevertheless a three-prong, which is what originally comes with the GNP model here. Now, I don't know there's a difference between three-prong and the A2 birdcage necessarily in terms of the sound. I don't think there really is, because these aren't really designed for sound changes. These are more designed for flash mitigation or whatever. Now, this, interestingly enough, is a three-prong, just like the SIG, but this doesn't cause any ping noises when you fire it. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's kind of cool that there's that pinging noise. It's just, I want to be clear, I'm not knocking on the SIG at all right now. I think it's kind of cool. But this is just want to point out that this doesn't make that sound. So what we'll do is we'll try to do a couple of, now my mag started leaking, so I have to use a different mag here. This is a King's Arm mag right here. But it doesn't really matter. We'll do a couple with the blast deflector on, and a couple with the traditional here, and we'll try to do I don't have like a decibel counter, but there's an app you can get on your phone, so let me see if that will do something, and we'll measure from that way. Alright, so let's start off with the GHK SIG first, but before we do, let's make sure we'll do it as a control, and we'll do it without the flash hider here. Now keep in mind that on the real version, apparently this is actually molded as one piece, so you're not really supposed to be able to exchange it because it's molded part of the barrel. But of course in the airsoft world, it's better to have it this way so that you can actually change it. All right, so this is a CO2 mag. Let's see. This is how on this test right here, we're just listening to see the sound with and without the flash hider. You'll notice that there's a pinging sound that I want to demonstrate. But just for fun, I'm going to try to record the decibel levels. Oh man, there's so many ads on this thing here. So it seems like it's about 54, 50 decibels when I'm not talking. That's the baseline. So let's just see how it goes from here. Hopefully the camera can pick that up. All right, so that's basically without, it goes up to about, I think I see about 80 or something like that, 79, 80, around there. But let's try it now with the flash hider. Now again, it should be the same volume, but it will have that more distinct sound, the pinging sound now. I think you heard that right there. It actually sounds almost less loud. It's hitting the 70s instead of the 80s, although there's that pinging noise. 79 or 78, yeah. 72. 71. Huh. Kind of odd. 84. All right, there you go. So, wow. Maybe it's a little bit less. But in any case, that's the SIG for you right there. So now let's try. Wow, I talk really loud. Let's try the car 15 now. And we'll see how this setup goes. So the way we'll do this test is we'll run this. We'll leave this behind. Let's see how this is going to do this. Okay, we're going to try to do this with the muzzle device first, and we'll record. Leave this in front of it and leave this behind it, and see if there's really that difference. Because theoretically, it should be really loud here, but there should be no difference in terms of the sound in front of the gun, but there should be a reduction from the person who's standing behind it, theoretically, if that blast device works the way it should. And then we're going to change it, and we're going to use the typical or the original muzzle flash hider here, and there should be no difference in terms of sound differences, whether you're standing in the front or behind. So let's try it. Let's do it the baseline first, and we'll do it from back here. All right, so this is from the rear. 68, 72, 77. These are decibels, by the way. 81, 74. All right, so let's shrink this back a little bit. I'm gonna try to place this, I don't know, a little bit more to the front. All right. 77, 81, 80, 62, 83, 73. All right. Does seem like there's a difference based on that. All right, but let's try it now with the traditional. So it does seem that this blast deflector does appear to be, again, changing the sound direction. So if you're in front of it, so it's not a suppressor, remember, because it doesn't reduce the sound, it just puts it somewhere else, basically. So that's the purpose of these things here, which is interesting because it makes sense now. It's not a loudener. It just puts it somewhere else. All right. So theoretically, if that actually were to do anything, this theoretically should have no difference in terms of the sound, whether you're behind the muzzle or in front of the muzzle in terms of the decibel levels. So let's try that out real quick. All right, so first of all, let's try it behind, we'll put the sound meter behind the person, or the behind the muzzle. 78, 81, 75, 77, 86. All right, cool. So it seems just as loud as it was before, which would suggest that's the case. So let me try to place it again in front of the muzzle, and theoretically it should be just as loud whether you're in front or behind, which would be awesome because that would suggest that this actually does something. 74, 78, 77, 83, 85, 85. So there you have it. I'll crunch the math in a second, but it seems that there you have it. Maybe this blast deflector in the airsoft world works. We know that if you see my last video on the muzzle flash video, quote unquote, when we shot the WE underwater, for that split second you can see the way that the gases leave. It does direct through the ports, so it looks just like that. You know how it escapes, the gas escapes just like how it does in real life, so to speak, at least underwater. And so to some extent this does potentially might work the way it should work. So something cool, and I've learned something new today. All right, so let's crunch numbers and see what happens. All right, so here are the results. After I crunched the numbers, the average, by the way, for the SIG, I don't think there was really a difference. It just says with the Flashhider, without the Flashhider. The main difference was that it's just that pinging noise at the end, but that doesn't really make it any louder. In fact, it was about 74 decibels with the Flashhider and about 75.8 without the Flashhider. So probably just within the margin of error. But again, that pinging noise is definitely clear and distinct in that one. Now, as far as the main point of this video, talking about, and by the way, I forgot to mention, this is the GMP blast deflector for the CAR 15. So remember, this uses a 14 millimeter clockwise, so it's not going to fit with your WE or your GHK. You have to use an adapter specific for it. So it's very different. So anyway, but if you have a GMP system, hey, it works for you. I don't know why they chose that specific thread since no one uses it. Any case, with the blast deflector, the sound behind it is about 74 decibels on average, and in front of it, if you were to have it's about 76. If you take out one of the errant ones that was like really low at 62, you get about 78, 79 decibels. So if I'm going to be biased here, obviously, I'm going to try to pretend like it works. And so 76 to 79 decibels in front of it, whereas behind the blast deflector, it's about 74 decibels. So that's potentially a difference. That means that it suggests that this thing does deflect the sound in the front. And so there you have it. Now, as a control, so to speak, if you were to look at the with the 3-prong, there isn't a difference actually. So it's about 79.4 decibels on average if you're the shooter with a 3-prong, and if you're standing in front of the muzzle device, it's about 80.3. So pretty much no difference in terms of that. So although it's weird though, because it does sound like, based on these averages, it does sound like with the blast deflector, it sounds like it's a little bit less quiet, or a little bit more quiet with the decibel. But again, it's so hard to measure. This is just a phone. I'm not sure there's echo going on in this hallway right here, or anything like that. But it's kind of cool that in theory, I think there's this blast deflector. In theory, again, it's always in theory, it seems to have some small effect, something like that. Just like kind of how like in that the flash signature video we did underwater, in theory there was some moderate effect, or just like in that dust signature, there's some moderate effect with different Flashhiders, which is kind of cool to have. So I hope you guys found that useful, or kind of interesting. I know this is kind of one of those videos that no one really asked for, but it's kind of cool. All right, thanks guys, see you next time.